Amphion are expanding their speaker range with the 218X model and the 118X models. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a soft launch of the new products at Earthworks Studios in Hertfordshire last night, which is a beautiful new studio, courtesy of SX Pro Audio, who hosted the event, and we got to meet Ansi, the founder of Amphion himself. At the event last night, we got to listen to the new speakers. The old versions weren't there, so we couldn't do a side-by-side comparison, but obviously I know mine pretty well, so I know what I was listening out for. I don't have them in my studio. There may be a chance of a review of that further down the line, but initially this is just my initial thoughts of what I heard last night at the event. Hi, I'm Ed Thorne, mixing and mastering engineer here in West London. It's good to see you. So the two new models, the 218X and the 118X, are not replacements of the current models. They are addition to the current line. What Amphion have done is taken the new tweeter that was on the 125A speaker, and they've put it into these new models, which consists of a new tweeter in each speaker and a new waveguide to house the speaker and offer the best acoustics that they've settled on. The frequency extension of these new tweeters is somewhat impressive. It's taken them from 20 kilohertz up to 50 kilohertz, but crucially with significantly and audibly less distortion. This results in the new models sounding a bit more expansive in the top end, definitely clearer, definitely a little bit more fidelity, and as a result, the benefits that come from that, which are slightly improved stereo imaging. Now, I will caveat this with saying that the room we were in, the speakers were very wide and much wider than I have them in here, so that may have been aiding that perception. Also, we had the subwoofers with them as well, which someone made a good point last night that actually having those stereo subwoofers actually helps improve the image. It's a bit of a psychoacoustic, but it helps improve our perception of depth. And these speakers do sound deeper than mine in here. Now, that could, like I said, be positioning rather than just the driver upgrade, but I think it's a bit of both. Now, the 118Xs were particularly interesting because they definitely were highlighting where sources like hi-hats were potentially on the edge of sounding a little harsh, whereas though the 218s, obviously with the MTM format, slightly soften this delivery. Now, that's not to say the 118s are harsh in any way. They're still the classic musical Amphion sound that we all know and love and works really well. But the MTM format, for me, just made them feel a little bit more relaxed and comfortable, but still with the crisp and sharpness that the Amphions have already, but with the additional element of this with the new drivers. Immediately, I would say the upgrade makes them sound like a more expensive speaker. I feel like it takes the Amphion 218s from the £7,500 price point with an amp up to about £8,500, £9,000. I would say the expansion in the top end and the lower distortion brings them closer to something like a PSI, which for me is still the most impressive speaker in the top end, but without possibly giving you the setbacks of that, which I found, which were that because those tweeters can handle so much, you actually miss stuff that you'd hear on other systems that can't handle the top end that well. Now, I can't say this for certain with the Amphion upgrade. I'd need to get into a room with them, into my room, ideally, that I know, and mix, and then, learn any mistakes or shortcomings in the mixes as a result. But I feel like as an interesting choice between the two, and for those people who can get to SX Pro Audio, who kindly hosted the event, and AB the two, I think you're going to be in great hands between either speaker. Personally, I don't feel like I need to upgrade. These speakers do feel, they go up to 20K, they feel slightly, not softened, but they're comfortable. I can listen to these for hours. They're not remotely fatiguing, but they still have that classic, beautiful Amphion way of revealing what needs doing. And they just help with translation so much. These are, like I said in my review of them, they are my speaker for life. Now, if I were to consider upgrading at some point, I'd have to do an A/B test. I don't feel like I need to, And also, I should note that there is not an upgradable option because this is a different waveguide, and I believe the crossover point is the same or thereabouts, but there's not an upgrade option, so I can't take these in to SX Pro and get the new drivers put in. But that's not a problem. I'm more than happy with these as they are. So I think this is a really interesting upgrade from Amphion. I think it's a nice addition. I think they're right not to replace one with the other because these have just a legacy and they're becoming so popular in studios. I think, a lot of people love this sound. And for a reason, these speakers just effortlessly guide you in a musical way to tweaking a mix to translate really well. And I don't feel like these need improving, but I can hear the benefits of the significantly lower distortion, which is audible on the X models. So I think having both is a really good option for new customers. If at some point I get them into the studio, I'll obviously let you know. Subscribe and like if you're interested in that review. All right, let's keep this video short and sweet. Thank you to Dale from SX Pro for inviting me to the event and hosting it. Thank you for Ansi for trusting us with listening to his new speakers, which are genuinely fantastic. Congratulations to you guys. It's been emotional. These speakers are going to be available at GearFest this weekend. If you're there, come and say hello. Me and Paul from the Working Audio Tools podcast will be wandering around. Feel free to stop us and say hello. On that bombshell, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.